What's going on, everyone? In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a build that I like to use in just about any kind of content revolving around the exotic Assassin's Cowl. The Assassin's Cowl perk reads as follows: Vanishing Execution. Powered melee final blows grant invisibility and restore a portion of health and shields. Finishers and final blows against more powerful targets increase the duration of the invisibility and the amount of health and shields restored. With this build, I really enjoy using it in pretty much any kind of content that you can play in the game. And a great thing about this build is it is usable in endgame content such as GMs, master raids, anything like that. You can solo lost sectors pretty easily with this build as well. There are quite a few different ways that you can run this build. However, the one I'm going to show you is the one that I personally enjoy the most right now. But before we get into the build here, please make sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new here. I am so thankful for each and every one of you stopping by the video and watching. Without further ado though, let's get into the build here. We're going to start off here in the subclass. On the super, you're going to want to run the Gathering Storm. This is just the most DPS that you can get with the Arc Hunter class. So definitely run Gathering Storm. For your dodge, you're actually going to want to run Gambler's Dodge, specifically for the fact that it recharges your melee ability, because when you pair that with Combination Blow, you actually regain all of your dodge after you get a melee kill, and then you'll just dodge near an enemy to fully restore that melee ability back. And then you can just loop this over and over and over again to get a ton of melee kills and pretty much be always invisible as long as you're getting those final blows. For your grenade here, you could actually run pulse grenades or storm grenades if you want. Both are going to be really strong here, especially since we don't have Touch of Thunder as we do on Titan. I would definitely recommend going for one or the other, but both of them are a very strong choice. Now let's move over to our aspects here. So the first one we're going to be running is Lethal Current. And the way Lethal Current works is anytime you dodge, your next melee attack is going to have increased range, and it's going to jolt the target, which will create a damaging aftershock as well. And anytime you damage a jolted target with melee, it will also blind them. And this is going to pair perfectly with everything we want to do in this build. And it also goes hand in hand with the next aspect, Flow State. And the way Flow State works is anytime you defeat a jolted target, you become amplified. And obviously when you're amplified, you're going to get your dodge back quicker, you're going to be more resilient while dodging, and your reload speed is going to be increased. So pairing these two together with a melee build is going to be absolutely perfect, because we're always going to be jolting enemies with Lethal Current, and then when we kill those jolted enemies, we're going to become amplified thanks to Flow State. Moving on over here to our fragments, we're going to be starting off with the Spark of Resistance. What this does is anytime you are surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage, and you get a +10 boost to strength. We're going to be always near enemies since we're going to be punching everything we can to become invisible. So this is going to be key in staying alive. Moving on to the next one here though, we got Spark of Feedback. And anytime you take melee damage, your outgoing melee damage is going to be increased, and you get a +10 in resilience. This is just a no-brainer to have in this build because you're going to be in the mix all the time, and you may get punched here and there by acolytes or thralls, for example. So you're going to be doing more damage because you're going to be getting hit by their melee attacks. And then obviously a +10 of resilience is going to be incredible, especially in the meta we have now with getting 40% damage resist when you have 100 resilience. Our next one here is actually going to be Spark of Ions. And anytime you defeat a jolted target, you'll get an Ionic Trace. And since we're going to pair this with Lethal Current and Flow State, as well as our Combination Blow, we're basically going to be always punching enemies, creating Ionic Traces, because those enemies are going to be jolted thanks to Lethal Current. So we're going to be able to get all of our abilities back pretty fast, especially our grenades, because our melee and our dodge are going to be coming back all the time anyways, unless you somehow miss your melee or you don't dodge near an enemy or something like that. So this is going to be a perfect fragment to actually add into the build here, just to give us a little bit more ability regen. And for our last fragment here, I actually have two that you could use kind of depending on the build you want to run. We have first Spark of Magnitude, so you just have a longer grenade, or you could run the Spark of Shock to actually jolt enemies with your arc grenade, which would then pair in to the Spark of Ions even more. It really depends on how you want to play this build, so I would recommend those two for that last fragment. And since this build allows you to get invis almost all the time, as long as you're killing enemies with your melee, you're going to be able to survive for so long in so many different instances. And you can even get yourself out of a sticky situation if you find a lower level ad. You can just punch that, become invisible, and get yourself to a safer location. On top of that, because you can get combination blow damage increases every time up to 3 stacks, it's going to be incredible for actually taking out some of the higher level enemies. If you can go invis, take out the lower level enemies around it, and then you can go in for the final blow on the other higher level enemies if you have teammates running things like weakening clear, or if you want to use a 1-2 punch shotgun with this build, you can actually take out some champs pretty quick with this build. Speaking of 1-2 punch shotguns, for weapons I would recommend you use, you could definitely go with a 1-2 punch shotgun. I would honestly recommend it in pretty much any endgame activity unless you need to have a champ mod. So I would definitely run something like that. If you want to run like a found verdict and even add the arc on top of it so you could do some damage with the weapon as well, definitely go for something like that. But if you want to run as much arc weaponry as possible just to help you out, it is definitely a good thing to do, especially since we're going to be running Font of Might on this build, which again, you could not run Font of Might if you want. However, that's what I'm just going to have in this for the mods. The mods are going to be kind of up to you though. But let's move on to the mods here. The main 2 mods in this build I would recommend having though would be Well of Ions and Melee Wellmaker. The reason I say Well of Ions and Melee Wellmaker is because Well of Ions allows you to get an increase to your melee damage next time you pick up an Arc Elemental Well. And since we're going to be punching everything all the time anyways, Melee Wellmaker is the perfect one to create those Arc Wells. I have Font of Might just to give myself a boost in damage to my arc weapons like my Akelos SMG or my Hothead. And then I have elemental armaments in case I need to shoot with my arc weapons. I can have a chance at creating an arc elemental well there as well. But that one is definitely not necessary. And you could definitely change things up with this build. But again, the 2 mods I recommend, Melee Wellmaker, Well of Ions. So overall, this build is a ton of fun to use. And no matter what content you're going to be running in this is going to be a build that you can use. It's fun, it's effective, and you can actually take out a lot of higher level champs with this build. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well, and if you want to interact with me a little bit more, be sure to come on over and check out my Twitch stream, twitch.tv/Walzer with 2 R's. And you could also go check out some more of my content over on TikTok as well, eWalzer on TikTok. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.